news here on NBA Today. According to our senior insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, De'Aaron Fox has fractured the tip of his left index finger in Game 4. Woj reports that there's still optimism. He's going to try and play in Game 5 on Tuesday. He would need to play with a protective covering on his finger. He's going to be listed as doubtful. This is according to our senior insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. And Ramona, I'm told that this happened late in this game.
Yep.
And you know what that means. Then we saw him make big buckets already with this fractured finger. So, Richard, I'll start with you here. How concerned should we be here for Fox?
Well, again, I think this is an individual pain threshold. Is this something that I think a player can play through? Yes. Do I think De'Aaron Fox is the type of player that if he can? Yes. I'll take you back to Ja Morant. We saw Ja Morant land on an already injured hand, see all of his fingers bent back, and was still able to come back and have the performance that he did. I think this means too much to De'Aaron Fox. If he can, he will. Ultimately, this is something that players can play through. There's a number of players, CJ McCollum, different guys have been playing through like little ligament tears, little fractures, stress fractures. This is something that in the postseason you can play through. Regular season you would sit.
Yeah, fortunately when it's your finger, like the rhythm is not necessarily all powered through one or two fingers. So that's something you feel like you can be comfortable playing through, as Richard said. But I'm someone who has known De'Aaron Fox since he was in high school. We both went to Cypher Independent School District. This guy's a competitor. And so if he's able to play, I would not be surprised if he still is able to play at a very high level. Because as you said, Malika, he hit that shot likely in the circumstance where his finger was injured. Now, again, after some time, the adrenaline comes down. It might feel different.
You
might have, it starts throbbing.
Starts throbbing.
Catching might feel different, but knowing this guy, knowing his toughness, and knowing what he's been through this entire season to get this team exactly where it needs to be, I would not be surprised if he still pushed through.
You just put a little needle,
look, when you put ice water,
let me ask you shooters over here, okay? You guys are both good shooters. When you shoot the ball, your index finger, it leaves your middle finger first and your index finger last.
Let me just,
So
everybody has a different shot motion. One thing I will say is that, it will impact him.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to feel it.
Yeah.
But is this something that can keep you out of the game? No.
Right.
I think
at this point, no.
Particularly knowing De'Aaron Fox, but also this is the playoffs, and this is the first time that this group has been in this position. This is when I spoke to De'Aaron after the game, he was sitting at his locker, Perk, and he was like, we needed to get that one. But also I have all the confidence in the world going into this next game. Do you think that this is going to impact the Kings in a sizable way, Perk?
You know what? I don't. I still think, listen, De'Aaron Fox is a Texas boy. And look, it can't be no worse than this, okay? It cannot be no worse than this finger right here. This is what we do. You see this finger right here?
No one else is supposed to.
It's still big.
Zoom in, Director Kevin.
Yeah, like I played through this. I played through this. So what I'm saying is this. I believe De'Aaron Fox is like living in this moment. He's playing exceptional basketball right now, and it didn't affect him late in the fourth quarter last night. And look, they have this such thing. They have some things behind the scenes when the doctors tell you at 75, come see me, that'll have him pain-free, that he'll be able to go out there on the floor and deliver. I think he played.
I want to bring senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski back to our show here. Woj, we know that De'Aaron Fox has fractured his finger. What more can you tell us?
Malika, there's still some hope that De'Aaron Fox will be able to play Game 5, that crucial game back in Sacramento with this series tied 2-2. I'm told he would need a protective covering on that finger. I'm told it's the very tip of that left index finger on his shooting hand. You know, the x-rays came back with a fracture there, but I think there's still some optimism. He'll be able to give it a go. Now, how effective he can be, how it impacts his grip, his shot, certainly those are the concerns. But the expectation is he'd get fitted or get a covering on that finger, on the hand, that would perhaps allow him to play. He's listed as doubtful right now, but again, certainly with the stakes right now at this point in the season, in the playoffs, I think De'Aaron Fox certainly is going to try to do whatever he can to get on the court, and there's optimism that at the very least he's going to give it a try Tuesday night with the series tied 2-2. 2-2, Malika.
Yeah, we were all just talking about it on the set, how competitive De'Aaron Fox is with the stakes this high. It would be surprising to see him at least not give it a go on Wednesday for this pivotal Game 5. Woj, thank you so much for stopping by with your reporting. Still to come on our show, we have a pivotal game tonight just across the street. So we're going to get you all set for the Lakers, the Grizzlies, Game 4. Janae, are they going to tie this thing up?
I don't know about that. Maybe.
We'll see. We'll see. We're going to discuss on the other side.
Taking flight. Oh, sent it with his chest.
I've been doing this too long. I'm making no statements.
He's been issued a flagrant foul penalty too and has been ejected from the game.
Yeah, see you later.
Fans making me a villain, the media making me a villain. That just creates a whole different persona on me. So now you think I intended to hit LeBron James in the nuts. I'm playing basketball, I'm a basketball player.
This is Hollywood, after all.
Yeah.
The stage is set for Game 4 as we get you ready. Ramona Shelburne back with us, as well as Tim McMahon, who's covering the Grizzlies for this series. So, Ramona, last game it was a blowout, right? Despite Ja Morant scoring 22 straight, which is wild in the fourth quarter, we saw all that was made of Dillon Brooks, right? But his rhetoric, his behavior, it's part of what makes the Grizzlies, but how are they viewing this internally?
Well, every time you ask a question, every time Dillon Brooks does something like this, you go to Tyus and you go to Desmond Bane, because those are the two adults that they always trust in front of the cameras. And they always say, we got our guys back.
Yeah.
But at some point, you kind of have to wonder, why isn't Dillon answering these questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's the one who puts it out there. And Tyus Jones and Desmond Bane, Steven Adams used to be in that role before he got hurt. There comes a point where this is where you need some veterans on this team, some guys that kind of take the load off there, because it's always the same two guys who are the mature ones. Tyus Jones has a couple of kids. He's he calls himself an old soul, but they're always having to answer for and back up the talk of Dillon Brooks and sometimes the talk of Ja Morant.
Well, I imagine, though, at the end of the day, this is a fine line, because it's what makes the Grizzlies, right? This is what they do. But then, when you look at the box score, and Dillon Brooks is 1 of 7 on jumpers, how is that reverberating?
Yeah, if you bark, you've got to bite. And look, you can't brick. Just straight up. And the way that the Lakers are playing him, those were invitation jumpers, right? They're packing the paint, sagging off Dillon Brooks and saying, if you want to beat us with your three-point shot, prove that you can do it. They're not guarding him. Now, you've got the crowd that's on him. You've got that whole thing. If Dillon Brooks is going to silence the crowd, he has to hit jump shots, because those shots will be there for him. And look, I don't think it's a coincidence that Ja Morant really got rolling when Dillon Brooks was off the floor. As much as he gives them on defense, and he is legitimately one of the best and most versatile defenders in the league, he has hurt them in this series offensively.
If you bark, you got to bite. You can't brick.
That was
a line, Tim McMahon. That was a flourish. All right, but at the end of the day, he is an unrestricted free agent this summer. Obviously, you're referring to the fact that he got ejected in that last game that we saw. Should we expect Dillon to be a cornerstone of this franchise for years to come?
Stay tuned. This is going to be a very difficult decision for the Grizzlies front office this summer, as you said, when he becomes a free agent. But look, they've showed their cards. They tried to engage the Raptors in conversations about OG Anunoby. They threw 4 first-round picks at the Brooklyn Nets and said, we want Mikal Bridges. They drafted Zaire Williams in the first round, trading up to get him. They drafted another small forward this year in David Roddy. Neither of those guys are ready for that role, but there's a lot that comes along with Dillon Brooks. If he's not going to be part of this, they have to find a way to replace him. And again, we're talking about a guy who is guarding LeBron James in this series. If they win this series, he's guarding Steph Curry or De'Aaron Fox next round. Not a lot of guys in the league who can do that. Now, the chaos that comes along with him, the shot selection and challenges offensively, they've got to figure out, is this a guy they want to move forward with as a part of their core?
That's the balance that they're going to need to figure out, what ingredients all go well to get to their end result that they're hoping for. Game 4 is tonight in Los Angeles, and it is going to be a good one. But do you guys know who both barks and bites in these playoffs? Jimmy Butler. So still to come on NBA Today. 30 points in just 28 minutes, leading the Heat to a 121-99 victory over the Bucks in Game 3. Miami became the first team in NBA history to score at least 120 points on 50% shooting in each of their first 3 games in the postseason. Butler, a huge reason why he's turned it up in the postseason during his career every single year. Butler has had 90 points through 3 games. That is the most by any Heat player to start a postseason in franchise history. And now, of course, Miami up 2-1 on the Milwaukee Bucks. I would be remiss not to mention, though, Victor Oladipo. Such a bummer to watch that.
Prayers
we are
up for
hoping
you.
for a very, very speedy recovery for him. As we shift our focus to tonight's game, we have the Lakers and the Grizzlies. We have Miami and the Bucks. The Bucks expecting, as Adrian Wojnarowski reported, to get Giannis Antetokounmpo back. So what are you expecting in these two tonight, Perk?
Well, I'm expecting the Bucks to bounce back in great fashion. Even if Giannis is not like fully healthy, just having him back in the lineup is going to help everybody else. But when I'm looking at that Grizzlies and Lakers game, that's what I'm looking for. Can Anthony Davis duplicate what he did in Game 3? And is Dillon Brooks going to duplicate what he did in Game 3? And that's absolutely nothing. I'm watching for Dillon Brooks. Forget Ja Morant. Forget AD and LeBron. What is Dillon Brooks going to do? That's who I'm looking to see if he go show up to the party.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, he asked for, all the smoke, and now he's taking the heat.
So,
Dillon Brooks. What, Richard?
I ain't got nothing to say.
Okay, good, because I'm right. Thank you. And, you have to think about this. What does this do for your reputation? Obviously, we know that he's one of the most elite defenders, but you went at LeBron James. LeBron James did not take the bait. It really, honestly, galvanized the rest of the Lakers squad. And I always say this. I know a lot of times we talk about stars. I think series are won by role players.
Yeah.
I mean, role players that show up, and, we're talking about the Josh Harts of New York, or even Rui Hachimura having some, consistent games in the postseason. Those key factors tilt the balance to teams so the stars can do what they need to do.
Okay, Anthony Davis was 31-17. Anthony Davis, when he plays like that, that's why people start talking about the Lakers as being able to make a run. And if they can keep him involved offensively, feed the big man, and he plays defense at the level he's been playing, woo.
And that's what I was saying. LeBron didn't take the bait because he knows AD is priority number one. And so they stuck to the game plan, and Dillon Brooks now looks like he's, oh, man, this is now all on me.
Right. But one Lakers player was saying before the game, if that's what Dillon Brooks will say to LeBron about LeBron, what's he going to say about the rest of us? So you're right. It kind of got the whole group coming behind him. Who do you expect to take the Miami Bucks game, and who do you expect to take the Lakers Grizz game tonight, Rich?
Ooh, this one's tough. Okay, so Miami, this is a tough one. I want to say the Bucks because they're about to get Giannis back.
Right.
But they've got to win 3 out of 4. I think that's one of the things that we're kind of missing. Again, no Oladipo, no Tyler Hero. They're getting Giannis back. But getting Giannis back ain't just going to solve the 130 points that you've given up every single night. That's not who your team is collectively. So getting Giannis back is going to help, but you've got to play better. You've got to get that defense back to what everyone believes is the best or one of the best of all time, in my opinion, because they have so much size and depth. Last thing I'm going to say about Dillon Brooks. We heard what Doris said. If you come for the king, you best not miss. That's what Doris said on the call. We know it. And so I'm very curious to see Dillon Brooks and to see how the Lakers team went around LeBron.
Yep.
Can this Memphis team come around Dillon Brooks, come around John Morant and his injury? Can they unite? Whichever team unites the best is going to win that Lakers Grizzlies series.
I think Miami wins is getting Giannis back. But we've seen the reemergence of Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson for the Miami Heat.
Yep.
With Oladipo out, with Hero out, Duncan Robinson all of a sudden making threes again.
Shout out
Max
my guy
Strus
Kevin
making
Love.
threes.
Shout out my guy Kevin Love.
20
I know the
seconds, Bert.
Cavs could use him right now.
And guess what? The Lakers are so happy that Dillon Brooks didn't get suspended because I can hear them from the sideline yelling, "He with us! He with us!"
Oh, God.
Every time he shoot, he with us.
I agree with y'all. I think that Milwaukee comes back for this one.
Hey, we've had great series, across the board.
Yeah, no, they've been exceptional. I just got one question for you guys as we go off air. What do you think is better? Is this the better dance move? Is this the better dance move? Or is this the better? That one is going to be fun. You can see how the rest of this is shaking out. And then onwards to the East. Philadelphia already has won their series against Brooklyn. New York leading 3-1. Miami leading 2-1. Boston leads their series 3-1. Joining me now, though, is senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski for the latest on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Because, Woj, Giannis missed the last 2 games with lower back soreness. But what can we expect from him here in Game 4?
Malika, some very good potential news for the Milwaukee Bucks tonight, down 2-1 to Miami in this Game 4. And there's a lot of optimism that Giannis Antetokounmpo will be able to make his return to the lineup against the Heat. His mobility has improved. The pain in that lower back has subsided, I'm told. And Antetokounmpo will warm up again as he did before Game 3. But this time, the expectation is he should be ready to go. The Bucks need him back. Certainly a must-win game for them. Down 2-1, trying to get this series back to Milwaukee even.
Well, that's good news for Milwaukee Bucks fans. Getting Giannis Antetokounmpo back is going to be so key for them. Woj, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us here on NBA Today. Okay. Giannis has only played in 11 minutes thus far in this series. Richard Jefferson is on his way over. I see you getting your notes together, my friend, because there's so many storylines, right, that have been going through these playoffs. But to you, what do you think is the best one?
Well, the best one of all is really the New York Knicks and what they have done to this Cleveland Cavaliers team. There was a lot of stories behind the Donovan Mitchell and the trade. Well, we have said on this show, and so many people have talked about how important Brunson was and what he was doing. This man has put up 27, 21, 20, and then 29. That is so impressive when you're talking about the guards that he's playing against. He's playing against Darius Garland. He's playing against Donovan Mitchell. And he has been the best guard in the series. That, to me, is impressive. And, again, one other person that we have been harping on, Josh Hart. Right. Josh Hart had an outstanding Game 1. Played okay, but then he gets pushed into the starting spot because of an injury. And what does he do? He gives you 19 points. This is why we are talking about every move the Knicks have made thus far has been outstanding. They have been the storyline. That is why they are up 3-1.
Not to mention, did you see Josh Hart's braids? When you get NY braided into your hair, I mean, he has the heart of the city.
I said it. Josh Hart's one of those guys that's built for the postseason. Yep. He does a million different things. You put him as a starter, you come off as a sixth man.
Sure.
He is that dude. The Knicks have been the most impressive team thus far in the postseason.
Somewhere, Stephen A. is just smiling. He is beaming from ear to ear. What's he been saying? Orange and blue skies. The
until they lose, then they're going to be back on the other
Richard,
side.
Are you going to get your hair braided like that next? Oh, wait. Sorry.
Just my tail.
The Knicks just one game away from matching their total for playoff series wins over the last 20 seasons, which is wild. And we know Jalen Brunson has been excellent. Mitchell Robinson has been chipping in. But, Shanae, if you were to pick one player that has stood out the most in these playoffs, who would it be?
Picking one player is not easy for me, right? If you think about it, I loved what Jalen Brunson has done. I love what Steph Curry has done. The Celtics, they made it look easy. But flying under the radar, Devin Booker. He has led the postseason in points so far. 139 points he has accumulated. But it's not just that. Look at that defensive effort. Yeah. That changed, honestly, the series. Because that was the second half in Game 2, I believe, and he was able to come out and be aggressive. He's shooting 57% from the field. I think it's 44% from three. And I know this is not the Clippers team that we had hoped that they would go against, but quietly, it seems like that's the definition of his career. Flying under the radar, but showing everyone he's still one of the top caliber players in the league.
I'm so glad you mentioned his defense because obviously offensively he has been explosive, but what he has been able to do to slow down, even though it's a shorthanded Clippers team, has been exceptional. Sinead, please do not go too far. Devin Booker, he leads the postseason, nearly 35 points per game. The playoffs is the betting favorites to come out of the West, but it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing for Phoenix so far, especially when you consider, Perk, that their opponent, right, is a little bit shorthanded here. So to you, Perk, who looks like the best team overall in these playoffs?
Well, you know, with Giannis being out, Milwaukee has kind of been looking funny in the light over there. Phoenix ain't looking too good. So, you know, I got to be a homer right now. I got to talk about the Boston Celtics. And it's because of their depth. Yeah, we know Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown could drop a 30-piece all flats Apache style, but it's been Derek White for me, right? Derek White is averaging around about 20 points in this series, and his impact for us, what he's been capable of doing on both ends of the floor, he has been outstanding for us playing on the ball defense on Trae Young. And let's talk about the Time Lord for a second. Robert Williams, the most important piece on the Celtics for us them winning the championships. Monster double-double last night, was all over the glass. Matter of fact, I think he came in second last night in Celtic history behind yours truly for most rebounds in a half in a playoff game. And so he's just killing the game right now. But when I look at the Celtics depth and you think about the Boston Celtics, yes, you think about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Then next you think about Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon. But when you have guys like Derek White and Robert Williams that could help you win games and have elevated, you're doing something special.
Well, especially, Perk, when we've been talking about all season long, right? Is it going to be the Celtics? Is it going to be the Bucks? The Celtics so far have looked like the more dominant team. And that brings us to our senior writer, Ramona Shelburne, because Ramona, as exciting as the playoffs have been thus far, there's still a couple of unanswered questions, if you will. To you, which one is the biggest?
I mean, what is the status of Joel Embiid going forward?
Right.
Okay. So he has a sprained LCL in his right knee. That's the lateral collateral ligament. And when he first went down with his injury, the sense is that it was going to be a 1, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how he feels. Now, he's going to be reevaluated in the middle of this week, but the injury happens on April 20th. And the second round starts April 29th. That's right in that window.
Right.
Where he could come back in time. That's why Doc Rivers says, I don't know, maybe it depends on how he recovers from that. But what kind of Joel Embiid are we going to see?
Right.
Because Joel Embiid with a knee injury, with a big old brace, we've seen him play like that.
Yep.
That's not what anyone in Philadelphia was hoping for when you went into this season after the kind of year he's had.
And so that's in the Eastern Conference. It is the game one of the next round. It could start as soon as Saturday. Is he going to be available for that game?
It'll depend on what happens in his evaluation this week, in the middle of the week. And I'm told he's doing better.
Okay.
Like he's moving around better. The swelling has subsided. But when he gets in there with the doctors and they see how he feels, you're not going to push it with something like that. You kind of, in terms of severity of this, it's something he can come back from. But an LCL is an LCL.
Right. Particularly, you can see his playoff injury history. This isn't new for Joel Embiid. Certainly, we hope to see him sooner rather than later. I'm going to parse this out a little bit more, Ramona. If Joel is the biggest unknown in the East, what or who is the biggest unknown in the West?
Man, I was at the Clippers and Suns series all weekend.
Right.
And it's so hard to watch when there's no Kawhi Leonard and no Paul George. And you see Kawhi Leonard walking in and out. You see him on the bench. Paul George, it was at practice today. He was trying to do something. Ty Lue, said essentially today he's not sure what they're going to be able to do, where they are. But look, that's Paul George making basketball moves.
Right. And this
Can
is from
he come
today.
back in time to make this a series? Because it had the makings of a classic series. And, give all the credit to the Suns. They came into LA and won those 2 games. They were close games mostly because Russell Westbrook had a throwback Russell Westbrook game, and Norman Powell was great, but I want to see Paul George play. I want to see Kawhi Leonard play.
Right.
And that, to me, is the biggest unknown in the world.
And this video that we're looking at right now is literally from just moments ago that we're seeing Paul George finally on the court. Om Young-Masuk is reporting that he's progressing, but it's hard not to wonder, okay, the Clippers, even without their 2 stars, they've been right there for much of those games. And if they'd had Paul George, if they'd had Kawhi Leonard, what could this series have been otherwise? That's sort of the thing that's replaying. And if it's replaying in my mind, I'm sure in the Clippers front office, among the Clippers team, that's the thing that's
the only playoffs we got to see both those guys healthy was 2020.
And that's such a bummer.
In the bubble.
Yeah, what a bummer that is. And in the bubble, man, they were fun to watch. All right, still to come on NBA Today. We got a lot to get to, Ramona. Draymond Wire. Remember, Draymond Green is back in this one, but he came off the bench for the first time in the Steve Kerr era in the playoffs. So when he comes into the game, this is what immediately... First, we have this. We should have known this was going to be a game from De'Aaron Fox. So they bring in Draymond, need a little more defense on him. And first things first, he gets a technical.
Like 1 minute in.
How do you get a technical?
1 minute in.
This exchange.
I like De'Aaron Fox.
Don't read their lips.
He didn't back
Do
down.
not read their lips.
No, but it's not about backing down in that moment. Like, the tougher man is the person that can walk away, not the person that doesn't back down.
Okay, Richard.
I'm just
Deep
saying,
analysis.
if you keep getting technicals, bro,
I know those points accumulate.
Every one of these guys are going to keep chirping at you. You want to win a championship? That's how he got suspended in 2016. It was the accumulation of it.
I know that he got lost here, Chiney, but can we just take a minute for Davion Mitchell's defense? I know, kid. We've all felt that watching.
But watch this follow through right here. On one leg.
What is the dance?
Not the stinky leg.
That's just the clay.
That's just the clay. That's some kind of
like, hold my
Super Mario Brothers thing that he was.
I don't know what.
And then things got spicy in the fourth quarter. Steph Curry, I was complimenting Davion's defense. Sometimes there's nothing that you can do.
Absolutely nothing you can do. Did a great job there. And here, this was the Warriors.
Look at the quick pump fake. Like, what?
24
He was
feet.
trying to get his foot behind the line, but
didn't quite get it, but still a clutch bucket.
Wouldn't think that point matters.
Dun, dun, dun. Plot twist.
So this is just as Doris Burke is complimenting the fact that this is an experienced team when Steph calls a timeout that they didn't have. Of course, that means it's a technical foul. They make the technical free throw, and they retain possession here, Chene.
And then, clutch player
of the year, De'Aaron Fox. You cannot rely on that man missing shots to win a game.
Well, this is the biggest mistake to me right here in the game. Coach of the year, you got to get 2 shots off. You have 1 timeout left, 10 seconds. You got to have De'Aaron go fast. If you miss it, foul, get another shot at it because you can call a timeout and advance the ball. 1 shot is not what you should have gotten.
Warriors get the win. Let's take a listen to after the game.
He hadn't come off the bench in 10 years since before I was coaching. But he came to me immediately after game 3. He drove back to the arena. I was in my office and he walked in and he said, "What do you think about me coming off the bench?"
We were just talking about it and he was asking me like, "Yo, what are your thoughts? Like, this is why we wouldn't do it X, Y, and Z." I'm like, "Yeah, this is why we should do it X, Y, and Z." And, one of his words was like, "But how are you going to feel coming off the bench? You have not come off the bench in 9 years in the playoffs. How are you going to feel?" Who fucking cares? Like, who cares how I feel? If I must answer the question for you, I'm fine. I'll be ready to go when it's time for me to go in, but it doesn't matter how I feel. I think the right thing to do would be to start the game the exact way we started game 3.
All right, let's break down this, Chene, because 132 playoff games. It's the first time in 132 playoff games that Draymond Green has come off of the bench. And he said he never wants to be that player who feels entitled to anything, entitled to starting. So how did you still see his impact?
Next level maturity right there. Let's dive into what Draymond is actually talking about, because Draymond coming off of the bench, he actually helped the Warriors with the floor spacing and consequentially, their assist numbers went up. They went back up to 31 or so a game when they're in their homestand in the playoffs. And now Draymond is back with his confidence, his team playing well, the offense churning. He's back to bringing balance on defense. As the closest defender, he held the Kings to 43% shooting percentage in the restricted area, which is 4th best in the playoffs. And that's not easy because the Warriors, they switch a lot of screens, which means he's probably back 1 step and he's still getting it done. And I'll show you exactly how that happens. This is a pick and roll. His job is to hedge. Look at Sabonis. He has a line drive to the rim. This should be an automatic, at least dunk, right? Instead, there's nice help defense. He's there to contest the shot and Wiggins rebound. Big factor, another help defender on the perimeter that helps Draymond out. Again, watch this. This is a 2-on-1. You've got one player here. You've got Sabonis that can clean it up. Watch how active he is. Goes up, contests the shot, out of the play, almost out of bounds.
Right.
Sabonis is there, block it, and then you know what he did after.
And time and score in that one.
He flexed. Time and score 100%. And all of this set the scene for his game-saving defense because Draymond guarded De'Aaron Fox in the second half and held him to 2 of 7 shooting.
Yep.
This was key late. Let's look at it. Thank you, Director Kathy, baby. All right, second half, he started guarding him. Watch this right here. Nice little attachment. Contest, force a lot of contested 2s, and those are shots he normally makes, but when you switch defenders, that's a nice adjustment. Look at the time and score, final play of the game. Steph doing his thing. He knows help defense is coming. This is where you make a calculated decision. 51% on 2s, 25% on 3s. Draymond stays active on the ball. Steph has his back. That is Warriors championship level defense.
Yep.
They didn't even need to talk.
Right.
They just were active. They were there. They knew each other like bros. They're hugging. That's what won them the game.
Yeah.
It was them getting their offense back because of his unselfish nature coming off the bench, and then getting their defense back because he knows exactly what to do, and he's willing to take any assignment, including the most clutch player this year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why Steve Kerr said when I spoke to him at halftime, he's like, you know what, we're going to make an adjustment here because yes, we don't like having 2 non-shooters on the floor in Kevon Looney and Draymond Green at the same time. But we're going to take a little bit of a risk here because we need Draymond's defense here on De'Aaron Fox. And then we saw Harrison Barnes say, if I can come back from his poor shooting in 2016, then I can do anything. But now we're flipping the page. We're going back to Sacramento, Ramona. Yeah. You were at that game in Golden State as well. So should we expect Draymond to come off of the bench? How did we get here?
So we got here because Draymond watched Game 3 from home. And that game was not close, right? So he gets in his car before the game's even over, and he's watching it like he's watching game tape. And he's like, I see what's working. And I see Kevon Looney having an amazing game. 20 rebounds in that game, 9 assists. And they played better with just one big on the floor, and Jordan Poole played great. We need to have just one big, and if someone's going to sit, it should be me. And when I spoke to him after the game, he said, when I became a starter, David Lee lost his starting spot. And David Lee was an all-star back when Draymond took his spot. And he didn't lose his spot because Steve Kerr made a decision. It was because David Lee got hurt in training camp, and Draymond just played great. And the Warriors, as we know them, were created during that stretch. And then David Lee came back, and Steve Kerr said, no, we're going to stay with what it is. And Dre said that was one of the most validating things that could ever happen to me because I believed I should be out there. And David Lee put his arm around him and supported him. This is a veteran all-star who just lost his starting spot, put his arm around him and said, here's what you need to do. Draymond said...
That doesn't sound like David Lee. That doesn't sound like David Lee.
Well, he said, this is how the world comes back around. Like, if that's how I got my job, I got to do the right thing here. Kevon Looney just had a career game.
Yes,
he was
right.
there when Draymond couldn't be there, and he should not be sitting that game. And so I think that I don't know if we see him come off the bench in this next game, but you know that Kevon Looney's been playing great, and Jordan Poole is going to be a starter for that team one day. It's just a question of when and who goes to the bench when he does. And so Draymond raising his hand after the suspension to do that, I thought was a big move for the Warriors, and it's something that they can do at any time now going forward.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Draymond, you love everything that he brings to the table, but it's just like you just want. There's a level of maturity. Even there where he got that block and he screamed. Yep. He screamed at Sabonis. You love the fact. But we already seen Claxton get kicked out of a game for 2 taunting technicals. One for dunking on Embiid and staring at him. Another one for dunking on Embiid and walking over top of him. Draymond, when you block that shot, if you're screaming at him, that's taunting. Then you've already have 1 technical. Now you're thrown out of the game again. They're within their rights to give you another technical. Now you're a Hall of Famer. You're all of this, so they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. But ultimately, you were close to getting another technical for screaming and yelling at him after the block.
Yeah.
I don't want that from him, and that's the maturity part that we have to see. Because if the Warriors do advance, the technicals are going with Draymond there. That's the biggest issue.
Well, and it's such a fine line for Draymond, right? Because it's what makes them great. That bravado, it's what pushes them forward. Because when Steph goes and makes threes, Clay goes and makes threes, it all shows up in the box score. But Draymond, in a sense, has to manufacture that. It's the energy, it's the defense, it's all of that. But at the end of the day, what matters is the wins and the losses. And now, Perk, we're all tied up in this series, baby. And you picked the Kings to win the series. Are you standing on that prediction, my friend?
I am standing on that prediction because the Kings have home court. I believe it's going to be hard for any team, especially the Warriors, to beat them on their home court. And De'Aaron Fox is just that superior when it comes down to taking over games. I believe that the others will step up, and I believe that Mike Brown will make adjustments. He will make adjustments. He have yet to really make adjustments in this series, but I believe he will. I think that 1-point loss in Golden State last night was actually encouraging for the Kings. To get smacked the way that they did in Game 3 and come back and respond that they did the way that they did in Game 4 was awesome. But can I say this about Draymond real quick?
Okay.
Let me appreciate this brother, because what he said in his post-game interview and what he said on his podcast is the true definition of losing yourself in the team. When you talk about coming back to the squad and giving yourself up and saying that, hey, I'm willing to come off the bench because it's better for the team. It's better for us overall because you know the goal that y'all are trying to reach is bigger than one individual. And if you reach that goal, everybody is going to get what they deserve anyway. Number 2, when Draymond spoke on the entitlement part, this is a message to all the basketball players out there in the world, not just in the league, but AAU and to their parents and to kids in high school. I keep telling people, it's not who starts, but it's who finishes the game. And in the crunch time when it matters the most, guess who was in the game at the elbow clogging up that lane for as De'Aaron Fox driving? It was Draymond. So I just thought it was a great thing for him to go out there and enlighten the people on how he took that lesser role and sacrifice. And also, he is very smart because he didn't hurt his bag. He helped his bag. And later down the line on in his career, guess what's going to happen? You could see him playing it out just like Udonis Haslem, an extension of the coach from 5 years from now, writing his own way out.
The series is all tied up now. It shifts